Even though New Hampshire is just around the corner, at least two of the candidates haven't let go of Iowa yet. The campaigns for Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders, I guess that makes three, they've all submitted evidence of inconsistencies with last Monday's caucuses. And as things stand now, Buttigieg holds just a very slim lead over Sanders when it comes to state delegates. But thanks to a faulty caucus count app and jammed phone lines, there are still unanswered questions about the final results. Joining us now is the national co-chair for the Sanders campaign, Nina Turner. Nina, you just gave an interview where you said what happened with the vote count in Iowa looks intentional. Can you explain?
Yeah, Anna, I mean, they had plenty of time to get ready for this moment. Everybody knew that 2020 was coming. A lot of beta testing should have happened. Definitely the Iowa Democratic Party, along with the DNC, let down the voters or the caucus goers in that great state, and that they should have been prepared for this moment. And you do not trickle out the tally. You give it all at one time so that we don't have all of the confusion, as you know, that we had for days on end and that we still have right now.
But what do you mean? It was intentional that this mess happened because somebody wanted it to be a big mess, or they interfered in some way in order to throw the vote count? What are you suggesting specifically was intentional?
That remains to be seen, and that, again, it was very clear that they were not prepared. I had the opportunity to talk to people who were inside there and who talked about how the app failed, how they had instructions for the instructions. There was lots of confusion, and all of that is unfair to the people who are there. So the people who were in charge, i.e. the Iowa Democratic Party, should have done a better job. And intentional in that you don't dribble out the results. You come out, you fess up to it, and then you give it all at once, and not the way that it was done, which was very deceitful.
So let me just be clear here. I want to make sure I understand you right. Are you suggesting there was incompetence, or are you suggesting there was something nefarious that took place?
On the Iowa Democratic Party side, absolutely incompetence. Not to have the people who volunteered there and have them ready, and this cannot be blamed on them. It falls at the feet of the Iowa Democratic Party and also the DNC.
What did you think the DNC did?
Well, they should have been in there helping that caucus, helping the leaders of the Iowa Democratic Party to get this done the right way. So all roads lead back to the DNC.
Okay, let me talk about last night's debate for a moment. We saw several of the candidates on the stage go after Sanders on the issue of electability. Let's listen.
With regard to Senator Sanders, the president wants very much to stick a label on every candidate. We're going to not only have to win this time, we have to bring along the United States Senate. And Bernie's labeled himself, not me, a Democratic Socialist. I think that's the label that the president's going to lay on everyone running with Bernie if he's a nominee.
When our nominee is dividing people with a politics that says if you don't go all the way to the edge, it doesn't count. A politics that says it's my way or the highway.
Are you talking about Senator Sanders?
Yes.
Bernie and I work together all the time, but I think we are not going to be able to outdivide the divider-in-chief.
So, Nina, make the case that more than any other candidate left in this race, that Sanders is not going to run up against a ceiling when it comes to drawing new supporters.
Well, your very own CNN poll that asked this question, who do you think is best to go up against President Trump? And Senator Bernard Sanders is at the top of that poll. So people in this country truly understand who is fighting for them. This 2020 election is about whose side you are on. Is it the billionaire class that funds your campaign, or are you on the side of the people? Anna, as you know, we have received 6 million donations into this campaign, and each one of those donations signify the working class people from all backgrounds in this country, who they support. Teachers, our #1 donor profession, and people who work at places like Walmart, the United States Postal Service, Amazon, and others really support Senator Bernie Sanders' candidate. And in Iowa, since we talked about Iowa, I just got to get this point in. In terms of who had the diversity, we know that within those satellite caucuses, the Black community, the Latinx community, we had one satellite caucus that was dominated by our Muslim sisters and brothers, and 99% of those caucus goers voted for Senator Sanders. That hard work that he has been doing for the last 4 years in this country, standing on the side of the people, standing up for the fight for 15, going after people like Jeff Bezos and saying to him very clearly, you need to pay your workers a living wage. That is just one example of how Senator Bernie Sanders is going to win not only this primary, Anna, but really build the true grassroots coalition, a movement that is going to be needed to defeat President Trump.
There was a moment where your name came up during the debate last night, Nina, in regards to an op-ed you wrote in a South Carolina newspaper recently about Joe Biden and the black vote. Here's that moment at the debate.
Several weeks ago, Nina Turner, one of your national co-chairs, published an op-ed piece that said Vice President Biden has, quote, repeatedly betrayed black voters to side with Republican lawmakers and undermine our progress. Senator Sanders, do you agree with her, one of your most visible surrogates, that Vice President Biden has repeatedly betrayed black voters?
Well, I think what Senator Turner was talking about are some of the early actions of Vice President Biden. But no, Joe Biden is a friend of mine, and I'm not here to attack him.
Nina, it didn't sound like Senator Sanders was willing to go there. Do you really believe Joe Biden would be bad for African Americans?
You know, his record speaks for itself. I am a black woman in America, and I laid out an argument based on the facts. And certainly the senator understands that. He has a friendship with Vice President Joe Biden. He laid that out. For me, as a black woman in America, I laid out very clearly the record of the vice president. And while he's out here talking about other people's records, everybody's record should be judged, and there should be a contrast. Again, whose side are you on? And it is quite insulting, Anna, if I may say so, and I think I've said so on your show before, that the African American community is considered anybody's firewall. We are not a firewall of anybody. People should have to earn our vote every single election cycle. And how do you earn that vote? It's about your past, it's about what you're talking about right now, and it is about a vision for a future that lifts our community. So I don't care who you are. I'm not going to sit back and let anybody take advantage of the African American community without speaking out. So I laid out the vice president's record.
So are you saying then Joe Biden is taking advantage of the African American community?
I laid out, Anna, the vice president's record. You've heard him time and time again. He even said it on the debate stage last night, that when he gets to South Carolina. Meanwhile, back in Iowa, very clear in that voting that diverse constituency, yes, Iowa is a majority white state, but there are black and brown people in other constituencies that live there. And we understood that the senator,
I understand you laid out his record. That is fair. That is fair. But
the diverse.
It's a yes or no question.
Anna, but we laid out the African American community in Iowa went with Senator Bernie Sanders. And you know why they did that? Because he is the person that has the vision that will change the material conditions of not just African Americans, but all working class people in this country.
Nina Turner, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much for making the case.
Thank you.
We're on top of all things 2020 and all